As you may know, India is a land of exceptionally tough warriors. So tough, in fact, that they're capable of breaking the laws of physics. On a more serious note, the Indian subcontinent was home to several highly advanced medieval states with impressive metallurgical expertise, which naturally extended to the art of weapon making. However, as history has shown, even the finest weapons are no guarantee of sovereignty, especially when you're stuck in the Middle Ages while European visitors have already entered the early modern period. Still, when it comes to Indian melee weapons, their variety and originality can astonish even the most seasoned European weaponsmiths. Yet, only a few examples manage to break into popular culture. One such lucky weapon is the push dagger known as the Katar or Jamadar. This weapon gained widespread attention among mainstream audiences about 2 decades ago with the release of the video game Diablo 2. In the game, a straight, triangular blade with an H-shaped hilt and a frame-like construction served as the assassin's primary weapon. Blizzard's blockbuster set a standard for the gaming industry. Since then, the Katar, or weapons resembling it, have frequently appeared in the hands of all sorts of medieval assassins. Even though the earliest mentions of Katars date back to the 13th or 14th century, their proper use and rising popularity can only be confidently traced to the 16th century. Around this time in Europe, the rapier and dagger combo was gaining traction, with the dagger primarily serving as a defensive tool, a shield replacement, though it could still be used offensively if needed. Meanwhile, as cities expanded and social life became more vibrant, a new problem arose. Long-bladed weapons were great for battlefields, but lugging them around daily wasn't exactly convenient. It's a bit like modern cameras. A DSLR with a large sensor is great, but it's impractical to carry around all the time. That's why most people prefer to sacrifice a little photo quality for the portability of a smartphone. Daggers, in their many forms, were the everyday smartphones of cold weapons, found in the arsenal of nearly every culture. The Indian push dagger, the Jamadar, a name, by the way, associated with a local god of death, stands out significantly from other daggers of this type. Its design was directly influenced by the conditions in which it was used. As you know, India is a hot and humid place, full of dense forests. In such conditions where hands are constantly damp, be it from sweat or rain, keeping a firm grip on a weapon is a real challenge. The Katar's rigid fist grip design allowed for better weapon control, and its forearm-covering side plates sometimes had straps for even greater stability. However, this grip came with both advantages and notable drawbacks. On the plus side, it allowed for quick and powerful thrusts, effectively turning the arm into a short spear. This was particularly crucial in rainforests, where enemies or wild animals could be hiding behind every bush. Here, it wasn't about elaborate techniques, but whether the wielder could react quickly enough. As a result, the Katar was often worn at the waist, above the saber, for maximum accessibility. Paintings, manuscripts, and engravings depict scenes of warriors triumphing over tigers with a Katar. But don't mistake it for a hunting weapon. It was more about having a slim chance of survival in such encounters. Or, these scenes could simply symbolize extraordinary heroism, skill, and luck. Still, the Katar's speed and rigid grip came at the cost of limited maneuverability. Since strikes originated from the forearm rather than the wrist, slashing attacks were less effective and fairly predictable for opponents. That said, the Katar's design offered decent hand protection. The side plates extending over the forearm could even deflect blows. By the 17th century, Katars began to feature small handguards, and later versions included what could be described as a gauntlet. While the Pada sword is often classified as a separate weapon, it's quite likely a variant of the Katar. Though Jamadars could sometimes have blades up to a meter long, they were typically shorter. The Rajputs, members of the warrior caste, primarily wielded sabers like the talwar. The Katar played a role similar to the European dagger, a secondary weapon for the left hand, mainly used to parry enemy strikes. Just like in Europe, some Katars were equipped with handguards, while others featured unfolding blades for trapping an opponent's weapon. Sounds a bit like a once popular German design, doesn't it? On some models, the side blades doubled as scabbards for the central blade, making them thick and less suited for striking. But being a secondary weapon doesn't mean it wasn't used offensively. The Katar was typically held horizontally during strikes. This was due to human anatomy, as the blade could slip between ribs, damaging more veins and arteries. It also created wide, gaping wounds. Some blades were even wavy, like a flamberge, which made the injuries even harder to heal in India's humid climate. To increase the wound area, some Katars featured multiple parallel blades. With skill and a bit of luck, these could even catch an opponent's blade. In some cases, a single narrow blade with a thickened tip was used for piercing strikes. These were often used to pierce through defensive armor. It's worth noting that the Katar is most intriguing as a secondary weapon. While there are mentions of Sikhs using the Jamadar as a primary weapon paired with a shield, an opponent wielding a sword or saber generally had the upper hand. Long-bladed weapons, thanks to wrist movements, can deliver less predictable strikes, follow more complex trajectories, and attack from greater distances. Depending on the owner's status, a Katar could range from a stunning masterpiece crafted from Indian wootz steel to a simple utilitarian blade forged from repurposed scraps of broken weapons. For the Rajput military elite we mentioned earlier, by the 19th century, the Katar had become a literal symbol of their status, even appearing as part of their signatures. This isn't surprising, as by that time, daggers, dirks, yatagans, and jamadars were often the only bladed weapons people carried regularly. However, it is important to understand that one of the key indicators of a weapon's effectiveness is its popularity. Successful designs tend to spread rapidly over vast territories. On the flip side, if a particular form is only found in a small region, it suggests that it's better suited to very specific conditions and doesn't offer much advantage over more widespread alternatives. The Katar is undoubtedly a fascinating weapon, but it's important to see it primarily as a secondary tool or a backup weapon. It was best used in the left hand or for defense when a longer blade wasn't available, or when quick action was absolutely necessary.